Hello, and welcome to the Court Report. I'm Gemard, and I'm a senior at Jonathan Law, as well as the editor-in-chief.
I'm Hershey. I'm a sophomore and a news editor at The Advocate.
My name is Kayla Markowitz. I'm a sophomore, and I'm a news editor for The Advocate. And welcome to the third episode of the Court Report. The Court Report is an Advocate editor podcast interviewing students and staff about big things happening here at Law. It plans on also being a place where students can share their feelings about issues they want to address.
If you haven't already done so, check out our first two episodes on YouTube. In today's episode, we are speaking to Jonathan Law social studies teachers, Ms. Healy and Ms. Burns, about social and emotional learning, or SEL, and how Law is doing well as how Law can improve.
We chose Ms. Burns because she's been incredibly involved in Jonathan Law's SEL days and plays a huge role in the committee organizing these days. We chose Ms. Healy because we see her promoting SEL with her students in her day-to-day.
So for those who don't know, SEL, or social emotional learning, is the process of developing the self-awareness, self-control, and interpersonal skills that are necessary for school, work, and just success generally in life. So our first question to you both to get the ball rolling is, why do you think SEL is so important?
Okay, I'll go first. So I think that SEL is so important, and especially as part of the goal and the focus here at Jonathan Law, because you guys are involved in so much, right? So kids are constantly inundated with how many classes you have, work, sports, the rest of it. And I don't think that there's a way really in an academic fashion that we've taught you how to deal with these stresses and these pressures. And I think COVID exacerbated it, but even before that, there's so much external stimulus that's causing just like overwhelmed lives that the district started this thing called SEL. So it was social emotional learning. I shouldn't say the district started it, but they adopted it as one of our goals. So Ms. Meyer-Farrell, who's the school social worker here, Mr. Guery, who's the dean of students, Mr. McPartlin, who teaches Spanish, and I all make up the social emotional learning committee here at Law. And then we represent Law on a greater committee that's run by the district. So 4 times a year, we meet with people outside of our school and we report what we're doing here to try to infuse social emotional learning and how it starts to hopefully become part of like the fabric of what we do every day. And so I think it's really important, just because without it, we're not constantly focusing on doing what's best for ourselves and taking care of ourselves. And I just think that with all the external pressures, you can lose sight of how to like care for yourself before you finish everything else you're supposed to do.
Definitely. Yeah, it's important to be able to learn how to take a step back and not just focus solely on like school, assignment, and making sure that you take a moment to take care of yourself.
So what are some like social emotional learning activities or like things that you guys incorporate as part of like what you want to talk about?
I would say, like in my class, I know in our AP class, Gemard, I try to give you guys a day off every time we take an assessment of any kind, like a quiz or a test, to kind of give you that break of, okay, yes, this is an advanced placement course. There is a lot of like high rigor and pacing, but it's also important to take a break and just kind of relax, take time to do what you need to do, and it's your guys' decision to decide, okay, how do I want to spend my free time when I'm not being structured exactly and told what to do. And I try to incorporate, especially in a class like that where there is a lot of high stress and high rigor with the students in that group.
Okay, so in my daily teaching, I try to think of SEL practices. So at the beginning of every class I have, we do a question of the day. The kids come up with the questions themselves. We have them on index cards. We pick a random question, and then everybody answers it. So like today's question was, if you could have dinner with anyone dead or alive, who would it be? And then everybody answers it. And it's fun, and the kids, have a chance to chat a bit. But like the reasoning behind it is everybody starts to talk. And when you start that day one, hopefully everybody starts to get very comfortable with the people in the class. I always say to them, if you can't talk about the things that you think about, you're not going to answer questions because you're going to worry, like, is it right? Are they judging me? I don't know. So if we can create like that classroom climate from the get-go of like, hey, this is a really safe space and let's just like be able to talk and not be threatening and not be a high stress environment, that's like one way. So it doesn't seem super SEL like from the outside, but every day like there's a reason and a purpose behind it. And so that's like one thing in class. Bigger than that, like in a school level. So from the committee, we do our SEL days now, which we started to integrate last year. So we did the day before Christmas, and we did the day before Memorial Day, mostly because in the past, Milford Public Schools have had half days on those days, so you've gotten released, right? And so we were kind of like, oh, this would be fun for a half day, and that was going to be our whole day. And then when we looked at the schedule, we realized they were full days. And we're like, oh my God. So we ran the half day schedule and then tried to give so many variety of activities that everybody could participate in, to be together and to have that time to like communicate and to collaborate, but without it being on content stuff and something that everybody has their own personal interests.
I think it's really important to start those like classroom conversations like what you do. And I think more teachers should start adapting that, because if you don't feel a sense of like community in your classroom, it is going to be hard for everyone to like feel like they can speak out and like talk about what they're like thinking about in actual classroom discussions.
Yeah. I would say even aside from the questions, just also the actual setup of the classroom too, and making it a safe kind of learning environment helps a lot with SEL. Just, I know like in our rooms we have like the comfortable lights, the desks aren't all in the straight rows like we had during COVID, and it gives that kind of more open space to be able to have those conversations.
Like the playlist that we have in macro, like all the students, I have that in one of my other classes as well. Like we have a playlist, a class playlist that everyone contributes to, and like it plays while we're doing our work, which I feel like especially it's important because it's like the little things that like you don't even really notice that kind of just like make your day. Like I remember coming into Miss Healy's class last year, and even Miss Burns with AP Psych, like we all remember having the couch in both of those classrooms, and we were all like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this couch. Like it's like not that big, like it's a couch. Like it's not like the most like groundbreaking thing, but just like it provided kind of a sense of comfort for us, and just like, yeah, like it was a different kind of environment than just like your typical classroom, which I feel like is really important, especially in like an environment that's just so stressful at times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm very non-traditional. Like if you've been in my class, if you know me at all from clubs or whatever, I've always been into this idea of like non-traditional learning. I've had couches in my room forever. I'm not big into the desks. I like sitting together in groups. And I think the more relaxed you are and the more comfortable you are, the better you're going to learn. Like I would much rather have people come in and learn and leave having like acquired things than said, they came in and they achieved and I got really good grades. Like I don't think the grades are the answer. I think actually like expanding knowledge and being curious about things is the answer. And I think the way to get that done is through like creating social emotional learning for people to be highly intelligent in their like emotional IQ rather than just academic.
Yeah.
I feel like a setback that many teachers face is like, even though social emotional learning is really important, like it's more important to just create a sense of like community in a classroom. You still do have to think about like grades and assignments and tests, especially with AP classes. Like at the end of the day, you have a strict schedule, so it's like hard to keep up with keeping it such like a stress-free place, because they're college classes for high school students, which just and like naturally creates stressful like environments.
Yeah, it's a balancing act trying to measure like social emotional learning and that kind of comfortable environment, as well as with content and school, because we are here to learn, but we're also here to learn more than just social studies. We're here to learn how to be people.
Yeah.
I think though too, if I could just say, I think Mr. Darcy, he really pushed for like the new grading policy this year. Mm-hmm. So you know how you can retake any assessment. And I think that while we don't on the face look at that as social emotional learning, I think what had happened is now if you take a test and you go, oh my God, I didn't do as well as I wanted and I really want to achieve, at least you have that built-in ability to go to your teacher and say, hey, I didn't do as well as I wanted, but I'd really like the opportunity to restudy, relearn, and retake the test. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that starts to take some of that initial pressure off, because you do have to do well and you do want to like produce for colleges. But now knowing that that's kind of like the fail-safe built in, hopefully that lets everybody go like, okay, I'm going to sit down and take this test, but I'm going to try my best. But it's not the end of the world if I don't do well, because there's always an opportunity then to revisit it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's social emotional learning, and I don't think we always think about it like that.
Yeah, I remember speaking for over the summer, a few seniors, like when we were rising seniors, talked to some of the vice principal options. Like we were in part of the student panel, and one of them kind of talked about like in her, like when she was in high school, how like if you got a bad grade, like it was only that, like it was a bad grade and just do better next time. And she said that like she felt like oftentimes, sometimes, like, a bad grade is kind of like the end all be all for a lot of people. Like, I even noticed it, like, we joke about it a lot, like, as students. I feel like we get a bad grade, like, I'm not going to college, like, this, that, and the third, like, go straight into the workforce. Like, we make those jokes, but, like, sometimes we don't really realize that, like, a lot of these jokes kind of, like, take place in, like, the shift that occurred, and that, like, there's a lot of, I would say, like, there's, like, an increased pressure on yourself now in today's day and age, just to, like, do well and ensure that, like, you're getting just, like, perfect grades, which sometimes isn't always realistic.
Definitely. I say a lot of students are very grade focused and very, like, reward focused. And my reward is getting an A or getting this or this, like, an A minus. Sometimes I even have students, an A minus is unacceptable. They're just very geared towards, like, being high achieving. And that adds a lot of stress. And that's why having SEL is important, to kind of try and take that away of, like, yeah, it's good that you're doing well, but also it's good for you to, like, take a deep breath, to, like, look at yourself, like, are you able to, like, take it slowly, and not be so grade oriented, but also, like, look at a whole person, not just your score in this class.
So what are some areas, if any, that you think law can improve on in regards to SEL?
I think there's always ways to improve. I think that when I started on the SEL committee, I want to say it's almost 4 or 5 years ago, maybe just after COVID, so maybe 3. I honestly don't know when I started. But I think that at one point, SEL wasn't infused like we're trying to make it. So if you think back, especially when you guys were, like, in elementary school, you know how they used to have, like, mood meters and, like, how's your day? And it kind of makes sense in elementary school, and you're really talking about emotion and emotional growth and whatever. By the time you get to high school, it's so segmented, and every teacher has their own focus. Like, I need you to do well in math. I need you to do well in science. Like, we're so singularly focused. When the SEL committee started, people downtown and in the committee were saying things like, well, we could do 10 minutes of yoga. Like, if a teacher could just say, okay, we'll stop and do 10 minutes of yoga and then go back to the work. And I was like, wait, this to me, and this is one of the reasons why I joined the committee when I was asked, and I really appreciate my time on it, is because we're trying to infuse it into everyday lessons, everyday experiences with teachers. I do think, if I could say, I'll say what we can improve, but I also think law does a really good job in having so many clubs and so many opportunities that are so diverse, that part of our goal is to get students paired and matched with things that they're interested in. So I know you guys are all super involved, and a lot of people are, but whether it's academics or clubs or specific interests, right? Mr. Evenko, for example, has the video game club and the debate club, and we have Model UN, and he has all these options. And it's just finding kids who say, you know what, this would be a good outlet for me, and matching them. So now it's not only social emotional during the day. Now they're creating a relationship with that teacher, with that advisor, so they feel supported. And I think when you feel supported on the daily, that helps then, like, build confidence and build your level of community. So I think ways we can do better is just when every teacher starts to implement it every day in every class, and it becomes second nature. And I think a lot of our teachers do that. And I think that we're working towards that, just making sure that, like, class procedures and class, like, every class has that vibe of, like, this is a safe place. Because we don't want anybody to go to a place where they feel like is either too stressful or anxiety provoking or any of those things. So I think that just the constant refocusing of SEL doesn't have to be something extra or additional. It can already be infused into the curriculum of what everyone already does. I think that the more we do that, the better we'll get. And I think that that's where, like, the work is focused now.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I was going to say, like, as you said before, I think one of the most important and, like, influential parts of, like, social emotional learning is really just, like, trusting all of your teachers and advisors, and knowing that you have someone to go to if you need them, and also knowing, like, someone has your back, like, someone at your school who you spend more hours a day at school than you do basically anywhere else. Like, know that someone there has your back. And it's really important for every single teacher here, every single administrator, to, like, infuse those, like, these social emotional learning activities, so that they can make sure that every student feels the social emotional learning, like, outcomes.
Yeah, and that's something that, like, even in the extracurricular, we mentioned, like, extracurriculars, like, Say Promise Club, we focus on making sure you have and can identify a trusted adult in the building. Like you were just saying, Kayla, like, there are like teachers in here, adults in this building that you spend so much time with and you can't feel like you can't go to. And part of what we do an advisory always around January about, okay, make sure you can identify, like write down a list. Who are the people you feel like you can go to? Because that's important and it's happening naturally. It's part of the SEL that already exists in the curriculum or things that people are doing, and making sure that you have those people. That's important.
Definitely.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Because I wanted to know what you guys think about SEL at law and what you think is what you like, what you think is good, and what you think we can improve.
Okay, I'll take it first.
Okay, let's go.
So right now, like, I feel like, especially in recent years, especially like my junior year and currently in my senior year, I feel like I see a lot of the simple stuff that like I really, really appreciate. Like, I feel like oftentimes beforehand, I kind of had like this big idea, like it had to be like this gigantic SEL day, it had to be like the stress fest, when in reality, it doesn't necessarily need to be that. It literally could be as simple as just like a class playlist, because like the vibe in like the classrooms where we have that class playlist, it's just like, I just love the vibes in those classrooms. Like we'll literally like be sitting there in AP Macro sometimes taking a test, and then this random song from this Disney movie just pops up, and like we're all just like laughing in the middle of our test. It's just like, there's no way in the middle of this stressful situation we're literally listening to like Moana, and it's happened repeatedly. So I feel like in terms of that, like I feel like law is just doing really better with like the small stuff, because the small stuff generally to me just holds so much more value. Not saying that the big stuff doesn't, but like the big stuff, like you can't really do a whole like SEL day every single week. Like but you can have a playlist, you can have a couch, you can have like dim lights, and well, I mean, we can't have couches anymore, but before we could have a couch. I just really like the big things in terms of like what I feel like can improve it. And I don't necessarily think that like these things are something that like law itself is kind of like lacking in. I feel like a lot of it might be the student body is kind of just like student engagement in the big events, because I really noticed with like the SEL days last year, but even with the pep rallies, like honestly, this kind of like off topic but kind of on topic with like school spirit at law. Like we're kind of like we're not like we're not the type of school to like be decked out in black and yellow, and sometimes it is sad just because like I feel like that contributes, like having a student body that's like genuinely excited to be there. But I feel like with a lot of the SEL days, like especially like the upperclassmen who have cars, like they just leave. And last year for the May one, I stayed and we literally just watched the tennis game, and there was like ice cream, and we were like, I was just texting my friends, I was like, we have ice cream, you guys don't because you went home. Like I just feel like that's like my big thing right now, especially with like the big events. I feel like sometimes students, and it's not like a law thing, I think it's just like a student thing where like students kind of just see it as an opportunity to go home rather than like an opportunity to like really like take some time, mindfulness time, and like form relationships.
Can I pop off real quick? Okay. So I'm so happy you brought that up, because I struggled with that so much. So as you know, like I ran the SEL day last May. I worked so hard to get ice cream donated. I spent so much time getting everybody to sign up for what they wanted, coming up with ideas, buying pots so people could go like paint their pot and plant a flower and have a kickball tournament. And it was like, I thought we offered really good opportunities for kids to come. And the thing I realized is we are fighting against a society where people just want to be on their phones and scroll and scroll and scroll. And so like in psych, I teach often, and this is like my soapbox moment, but like the more times you're on your phone, you are missing out on the opportunities to create memories with the people in front of you. And at the end of your life, literally, if you picture yourself like rocking on a porch with a little Afghan over your leg and cold and like shriveled up with all these wrinkles, the only thing you have then is the memories. Like your life becomes the sum of these memories. And how many of them are we wasting just being on the phone and not paying attention? So we put these, and I said to Rags, I was like, I'm so frustrated. And the thing we kind of landed on, and the thing that helped me was like, attraction rather than promotion. So it's going to be, I'm trying to make it so good that people want to come. And the more people want to be invested, they'll take advantage of it. And so some people are going to leave. You're never going to get 100%, and they shouldn't leave. They should get in trouble. But like, you're never going to get 100% of the people be like, oh my God, I can't wait to do this. But if I could get 80%, and if you could go back and say, wow, I had such a great time with my 5 friends, it's so worth it to me. And even like with the pep rallies, I think that people put in so much time and effort to try to make it good, and it's 40 minutes, right? And so like, what are these people who are leaving doing? They're going home, they're on their phones, they're laying on the couch, whatever. They're going to Starbucks, they're going to McDonald's. They do that anyways. They could have done it 40 minutes later, but they chose to like miss out on this opportunity to cultivate and like create memories with their friends that I just think is such a missed opportunity. And as an adult and as an older person, when I look back, I promise anyone who's listening to this, you're going to regret it, because eventually you don't have the opportunity to make those. Like if you went to every SEL day while you were here, that's only 4. So you're going to pay in 4 kickball tournaments. That's it. Like you're going to get ice cream 4 times. It's not like all the time. I don't know. I was just so disappointed. And I just think that the more people don't take advantage of what's offered, they're only cheating themselves. And unfortunately, hindsight's 2020, and they won't realize it until they're 25, and they're like, "Oh wow, I did do that at my high school. That was cool." I don't know. But you know what they did? They hit like on Instagram 40 times, and they watched like 20 TikToks of people they don't know. So like, good for you.
So I think the moral of the story is that participate in SEL day, participate in SEL learning, all students and all staff. I was going to agree with you. Like, I think it's super sad when people like kind of view it as like embarrassing or like cringy, because at the end of the day, like, it's just like having fun with the other people at school, and it's important to let yourself have fun instead of just like being home. That's boring.
It's for you guys. It's for all of you to engage with each other, develop those skills together. And you're supposed to be here anyway, so might as well like have fun with it.
It's also funny to see like I feel like on both sides, like we get to see our teachers, a different side of our teachers, and our teachers get to see a different side of us. Like some teachers like really competitive with like video games, like kickball, but like you don't get that in the classroom. It's just like a different kind of opportunity to foster a different kind of relationship, because yeah, you can do that in class, but like most likely in class you're focusing on the class, so kind of you get to see a different side. Like you kind of get to meet everyone better, like get to know everyone better, I feel like, with the SEL activity and just the SEL days that we do. Yeah, like watching Mr. Vincent playing basketball. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for coming on this episode. It was a very great conversation. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to episode 3 of The Court Report.
We hope you enjoyed a little bit of a different kind of episode, and I hope you listen in next time for episode 4.
Also, we are very excited to announce that The Court Report will soon be put on all streaming platforms, including Apple Music and Spotify.
See you next time on The Court Report.
Bye.